Hello, welcome to the playground. I hope you're doing well. Today, I wanted to talk about one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned when it comes to friendships. Probably the first lesson that I've had to learn on my own because when I realized what we're about to talk about is when I was maybe 10, 11 years old, there was a girl who had just moved from a different school and we all knew each other in the school where we were originally. So she kind of stood out to me when I saw her on the first day of class. She was just sitting on the bench, really overwhelmed, looking around. And in that moment, I knew that I could possibly change the course of her arrival. Is that the right term? Her arrival in like a new school with new people. She looked really shy. She didn't want to go to anyone to talk to them. And I had to make the decision to go speak with her, which at that age you would think it's really easy, but it's really not because when you're 10 years old, 11 years old, you're barely even hitting puberty at that point. There's a lot of confusion happening, there's a lot of shyness happening, a lot of uncertainty. But I walked up to her and asked her name, and she told me her name, and I told her my name, and I asked her what school she was coming from, and she told me that she was coming from like an all girls school that she used to go to, and I told her she was welcome. I was with one of my friends, and I introduced her to my friend who I was with, and next thing you know, we became really close. Like all three of us became really close. Now we're not as close anymore because I mean some years have passed and we've kind of lost touch. But I would always remember that very interaction, and it had made me realize that it's one thing to want to have friends, but it's another thing to want to be a friend. And I'm realizing that there are a lot of people who want friends, but who don't necessarily do much to go out of their way to be a friend, to be a good friend. They consider friendship just a connection or proximity to a certain person. But to me, the best friendships come from people taking responsibility of just making the action and taking the first step. And as you get older, it becomes really hard to make meaningful friendships. You know, when we were in school, like high school, college, it's really easy because you have all of these people that you share the same schedule with, same activities with, same interests, and you enter the quote unquote adult world, and it's really hard to be a friend or hang out with your friends sometimes, see each other, all of these things. And it can be much easier if people keep taking that initiative and keep making that step without, fearing the other person, thinking like, oh, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I should be a little more nonchalant. You lose friendships by being nonchalant. And me personally, I have noticed that I'm someone who always goes out of my way to be friendly to people. That's just my personality type. Like, I know some people become or they start off as being reserved and then they slowly grow into friendships with other people. For me, it's the opposite. For me, I give my all up front because that's who I am. I'm not going to dim what I can bring you as a friend just because I don't really know you. If I have it, I can share it with you. If you're my friend, I'm going to go out of my way to be your friend. But I've realized that there are people who just want to have friends just so they can keep you around. Maybe you make them feel a certain way. Maybe they see a certain, I'm not really sure what the word is. I'm gonna like add it right here. It's notoriété. I don't know like how you say notoriety maybe. But yeah, people keep you around for many reasons, but it's not necessarily because they want to do good by you. And I believe it is our responsibility to practice clean friendship hygiene and know where you stand in other people's lives, whether it comes to friendships or relationships or any other types of relationship that, it could be family, whatever, but it's our responsibility to know where we stand because I have experienced so much burnout giving too much to the wrong people. And I'm sure many people can relate to that because it's a lot of people are raised people pleasers. A lot of people think other people have the same intentions that you have. And in the end, you end up being disappointed, being disgusted, even. And it's like, oh, I thought it was more than that. But by the way you're acting, I'm seeing that if I basically sever the connection between us, then the connection will be severed and you will not be doing anything to bring it back. And it's a very sad but very important realization that I have had to come to. I have also accepted the fact that sometimes the friends that you might consider the closest aren't really people who consider you to be as close as them. For example, my I have I would say a lot of friends just overall because I believe that if we have made a connection in the past and we've kind of had some bond, I don't know what else to call you. Like, even if we are not really keeping in touch or we don't really have a relationship with each other anymore, you're still my friend. However, I have noticed that people who I consider my best friends are people who I look up to. And don't get me wrong, I am proud of all of my friends. I can't be friends with someone that I am not proud of. But the people who I consider my best friends, who probably don't even consider me their best friends, but those who I consider my best friends are people who I look up to and I'm inspired by, people who I look at and tell myself, wow, this is really impressive. They had this goal and said, they have done exactly what they said they were going to do and they reached that goal. To me, that is the most inspiring. Like, I don't care. It's like when I have someone like that in my life, I can't help but I don't idolize them or anything, but to me, it's a confirmation that I too can do all of the things that I want to do compared to certain friends that you hang out with and feel drained by. I have some people who I have hung out in the past before and hung out with in the past before, and every time the hangout was over, I kind of felt drained and just like, oh, what was that? I didn't like that. I didn't like the way they were speaking to me. I didn't like, is this how you operate in life every single day? Are you always this negative? It can be really uncomfortable and toxic and very hard to navigate. And I think the best way to just have healthy friendships overall is to just be honest with yourself and choose how much you're going to extend yourself for that person. There's nothing wrong with giving a certain percentage of your energy to some people versus others. I used to think, like, okay, if this is how I am, then this is how I am with everybody. Wrong. You can't be doing that because people take advantage of you all the time, especially when they see that you're kind and you're willing to go the extra mile to just make them smile, do something for them. They start acting like you're doing these things not because this is who you are, but because they think that's what they deserve. And that's not true. That is not always true. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And I thoroughly enjoy being a friend. All I wanted to say is be a friend and choose other people who want to be friends, not people who want to have friends, because people who want to have friends will only take and take and take from you, and it's going to be draining. And then you're going to resent them and not realize that it was probably your fault in the first place if they gained that access, from you. I hope you take care of yourself. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.